In this video, I'll be showing how I made a natural looking bird bath for bird photography from a black plastic tray. So in this video I want to show how I've actually made a small natural looking bird bath. When I say bird bath, I mean we've all got bird baths in the gardens and that sort of thing there, but I wanted something larger, something that looks natural, so when the birds come down to drink and bathe at the edges and in the pool, it looks as if it's taken sort of not on a garden bird bath or anything like that. This location is a new location for me. I'll be hopefully doing a number of videos from this location. It's new, I'm just setting it up at the moment where to actually put the hide and that. There's a big bramble bush hedge along here, trees down the back, but this area is fairly open, and the hide that I've got set up there, from the position of the hide, when I take pictures from here, it's going to give me a really nice clean backdrop. So initially what I've done, just to see what birds are coming in, is to actually just sort of put some feed out and some water down to see what birds are about. And I've been amazed at the number of birds here. We've had lots of long-tailed tits, great tits, blue tits, coal tits, lots of green finches and goldfinches, dunnocks, robins and that sort of thing. So it's actually quite a good location. Initially what I've done is just started off with a plastic tray with water in, just to see what birds are coming down to drink or bathe or anything like that, before I actually made something a little bit more permanent. Also, it gave me an idea as far as the lighting and the position and distance of the hide to get decent shots. I've also put a log pile there, and I got feeders up with fat ball feeders, peanut feeders, sunflower hearts and Niger seeds. I've also got some trays here with some mealworms in, quite close to the bramble. What I'm hoping to do perhaps is get some of the birds coming over here onto those. But so far it's only been here about a week or so, but I've been quite amazed at the number of birds that are actually coming here. So this particular pool at the moment, I mean basically it's just a plastic tray with some water in and a few logs there for the birds to perch on. That's really no good for photography, so this video really is about how to actually make something slightly bigger that looks natural in the pictures. So what I'm actually going to use for my bird bath pool is this plastic tray. It's what they call a mortar tray. It measures just about under 40 inches that way, 40 inches that way, and it's just under an inch deep. So that depth gives a good depth actually for birds, small birds to come and bathe in. They're not going to get out of their depth or anything like that. You can buy these from B&Q, Screwfix, that sort of thing there. They're called mortar trays, but they're nice and strong and solid. What I'll actually do is I'm not going to put it flat onto the ground. I'm just going to raise it up on a small little table. That will help me to, when I'm photographing birds from this end here, because it's slightly higher up, it'll help to throw that background out of focus. Well, that's the plan anyway. As it is at the moment, it's just black plastic, so really that's no good at all. So you've got to try and dress it up so that it looks a little bit more natural. So as they say in all the best cooking programs, this is one that I prepared earlier. And what I've done is I've lined all around the edges with bark that I've found on an old tree. One of my early morning jaunts out to try and photograph hares, I came across this tree that had fallen down, and a lot of the bark was just peeled off it, and it's got a really nice texture. It's quite strong. It's still good wood actually. It's not going to rot. That's the thing that appealed to me. And it's just a case of breaking it up into pieces that you can put round the edges, but if you just put them around there, they'll just fall back in. So what you have to do is glue it all around there. So I've used glue all around the edges, stuck it on there. I've put some of these bits here in the actual that's to actually give it a little bit of a ledge. What I'll probably do is put small stones there again, so you have areas where it's a little bit deeper perhaps in the middle than it is on the edge, but even still it's going to look very, very natural. Might take the birds a few days to get used to it, but I've took the other water away, so if they want water they've got to come here. As I say, I'm going to put it on a little wooden table. It's only about a few inches, 8 inches off the ground. The reason for that is when they're at the back there, I'm going to get a clear backdrop. You've got the bramble bush to one side, so what I'm actually going to do is actually put a log pile there, build an old log. I've got loads of rotting logs and that sort of thing, so I'm going to put that right against the bramble bush. So again, that's another habitat really for small birds. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I might get a wren or some of the other ground feeding birds will actually sort of be grubbing about in the log pile. But once I've got the water in here, it should actually look very, very natural. So this is the table that I'm going to be putting the bird bath pool on top of. The height of it is at the moment is a few inches, 8 inches off the ground. Whether that's the right height or not, I'm not exactly sure until I've spent a morning in there photographing it. If I decide it's too high, I can just quickly saw off a bit of the logs. The important thing when you're setting this up is to make sure you've got it level. I mean, the ground here isn't flat, so I've had to block up the legs and that sort of thing. I've been checking it, make sure you check it with the spirit level all the ways. Now, that pool measures just under 40 inches both ways, but this table here is 48 inches by 45 inches. So you've got a bit of play around the edges. The reason for that is that I want to put some logs and moss and some earth around the edges so that if the birds sit up here, it looks fairly, very natural. So I'll get on with doing that now and show you the completed pool when it's finished. So I've got all the rotten logs all around the edge, and that was the idea of actually having it a bit wider, the actual table wider than the actual pool, because these will actually, once they're weathered in, will look very, very nice. What I also can do is put earth in here, and that'll also help it to set in and everything like that. So what I'll do is go around the edges, any gaps or anything like that, I'll fill them with earth. It should sort of help to sort of, you know, put some moss on there and things, grass. It'll start to look okay. Now I've made sure that I've left enough space the other side there, because what I'm actually going to do is put a lot of logs there, create a log pile that's the actual height of the actual table. Hopefully sort of things like dunnocks, ground feeders, that sort of thing might come in from the bramble bush, grubbing about in the actual log pile, and they're at the right height to come down to the pool. That's the theory of it. I'm usually wrong, but we'll see how it goes. But I won't know until I've been here a few weeks and see what's happened. What I'll also do is put some stones along here, so there's actually sort of an even shallower bit there for the small birds to get in there. But I can actually hear them up in the bush chirping away. They want me to get finished and get out of the way so they can get back onto the feeders and probably come down. Be interesting to see when I've filled it up with water, and it will take a fair bit of water actually. Be interesting to see how quickly the birds come down to it. Don't think it'll be that long. So I've had this glorified bird bath, and that's basically all it is, for about a week or so now, and it's starting to weather in. The birds have got very, very used to it. In fact, the first day that I had it here, the birds were coming down to drink and bathe, and it's weathering in nicely. I'm getting some nice pictures. When you set anything up like this, you're going to make mistakes, and one of the mistakes that I made is that I had the height on this table about 18 inches high. The only problem with that, from the distance where I had the hide, which was about 15 to 20 foot, the angle I was getting, I was getting that edge there, you couldn't really see the birds actually coming down to this part of the water. They'd come up on here, you couldn't see them down there. So what I had to do is lower the actual height of the pool and the table so that it's a little bit lower, and I've also moved the hide a little bit closer. Now it's about 13 foot away, and as it's lower, that means I get a slightly more elevated look. So here, when the birds come bathe and splash, I can get them in quite happily. The first session that I had here, I was very pleased that sort of the log piles, and I think the fact that it's so close to the bramble, attracted a wren. I got some very nice shots of a wren the very first session I had. Also on that first session, I was amazed that I'd only been in the hide about 20 minutes and a sparrowhawk flew down and landed on this here. Basically this branch is supported on what they call an X-bar, so it's sticking out from the bramble. It's a nice perch for birds to land on, but literally a sparrowhawk came down there. Now, from the distance that the hide is, I had the 150 to 400 on and set at 400. It was far too close. By the time I'd zoomed back and moved the lens, whether sparrowhawks saw the lens, probably did, and it flew off. So I didn't actually get a shot of it, but it was so nice on the first attempt, first session, to actually see a sparrowhawk down there. And because the actual feeders are attracting a lot of birds and the food's actually going down quite quickly, probably the sunflower hearts, the peanuts, the Niger seed, the mealworms are attracting a lot of birds, and I suppose the sparrowhawk looks upon this area as almost like having a McDonald's on its doorstep, so it will drop in here regularly. Haven't seen any feathers or anything that it's actually caught anything. One of the advantages is this huge section of bramble there and trees at the back there. There's lots of cover for them, so if a predator does come down, they can just quickly get into the cover. So at the moment I'm just experimenting to see where the light's going to be. It's 8:30 in the morning, it's almost the beginning of September. The light's coming up over there, and at the moment it's lighting the pool up there, but eventually as it moves around, there's a tree to the left hand side of me, and particularly in the winter when the light's lower, that will actually make this part of it in shade. So whether or not I move it further down where it's a bit more open, or I even move it further back and do it over there, but at the moment it's okay. And when you come to a new location, it is really just finding out where the light's going to be, where the best position is, and what birds you're going to come in. But at the moment it's all looking very positive. So this new location will be an ongoing project, and in future videos I will be showing how the site develops and future changes and alterations. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe to be notified of future uploads. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe, and it does mean that you will be notified when I produce a new video. Thanks for watching.